Welcome to Six and the Six with our fabulous guest, Abby Henderson, freshman brick wall for the women's field hockey team at Roberts Wesleyan University. Yay, Abby.
Thank you, Nosy.
How's it going tonight?
It's going great. Enjoying a little bit of time for myself to catch up on schoolwork and get back in the process of college, I guess, before field hockey starts again.
Yeah, so we were talking about this before we hit record on this, that now that we're finished with our season, we cannot practice until all those postseason things are finished, and you don't really know what to do with yourself.
No.
So it's interesting because I think we invest a lot of our selves and time management and all that in being a student athlete, which is interesting because a lot of it revolves around your athletic schedule. So how are you doing with managing your time now that you have that big piece out of there?
Managing's definitely been a different as take a different aspect on it. I don't have to block out a certain period for games. It's just kind of like class is over now, okay, go. But then it's like I also have the time to kind of hang girls on my floor and my friends managing them is now kind of feel hockey, and so that's kind of how I. But just kind of staying on track, stay ahead of the game, so that way when I go back into season up the practices again, I'm not swamped with a bunch of schoolwork. I can kind of just keep on trucking with what I have from what I'm doing now.
Yeah, that's good. We were breaking up a little bit there. Of course, once we start recording, our connections go bad. So let's hope that cleaned itself up.
Let's
Um,
hope.
so we're also talking that you have a big practice tonight. Speaking of getting back on the athletic field and something you have not done before, which I was surprised your fabulous high school did not have this, powder puff.
Yes, powder
Yeah,
puff.
tell us a little bit about the powder puff event you're getting into and how you're feeling about your first time at the rodeo.
I'm excited to start the powder puff just because I've never done it before, and the whole field hockey team is going to be there. So it'll be nice to compete with each other and against each other again because we don't know what team we're going to be on. So we're going to get split up, but it's almost like it's just like another practice coming together and being like one, even though we're separated. And so that part of it's what I'm really excited to look forward to. Personally, I'm hoping that me and Avery get split up so we can have a little bit of competition because I feel like we're always working together. So to kind of get that little bit of competition in and just like working with everybody else in that aspect of it too.
Well, it's you kind of jumped into my next question on me. I was going to ask who you hoped you were head to head against, and I was thinking in the back of my mind it was going to be Avery, but um yeah, it's good to hear I was right. So before we get into that, flip side of that, who are you hoping out of the entire field hockey team might be on your team?
Oh, definitely Jess, because Jess played football in her past. So she'll know kind of what the rules and how to play and hopefully get us a winning spot. But if not, that's okay. Anybody I'll take from my team in particular. I just hope someone from the field hockey team's on my team. But if not, it's going to be great to get to know everybody else because I'm pretty sure there's other athletes that are going to be there as well. So just kind of getting to unite with like the whole campus and come together in something that we've never really, I mean, I have never really done before. So,
That sounds cool. Be careful out there. The last powder puff game I knew athletes involved in, there were some incidents and some injuries. So
oh no.
remember, it's not the Super Bowl of powder puff games.
Okay.
Back to you wanting to go head to head against Avery. You guys have an amazing dynamic on the field hockey team. Tell us a little bit about how that rivalry between each other, how that camaraderie with each other, how that friendship as it's developed. Avery's another freshman. Um, how's that experience been with you guys pushing each other and just like enjoying the heck out of goalie life back there? You guys make me crack up.
So, coming into college, I was talking to Coach Marissa, and she said, don't room with another goalie, don't room with I mean, if you want to room with another hockey player, like go for it. But also just because like, there's always that thing of like competing. You're both competing for that same position. And I never really thought anything of it because I mean, for me, yes, it's about competition, but it's all about learning and growing together because if someone's better than me, then I know that what I'm doing is also helping to better them as well as the flip side of things. They're better than me, so I'm going to learn something from them. And in practices, the first day of practice, I remember taking away a whole bunch of things from Avery and you, and not having that other person. I was the only one on my varsity team back in high school. And so coming to that next level where it wasn't just me and there was somebody else who was better than I was and had other things that she could contribute to my skills was definitely a big thing that I really liked. And Avery and I's relationship, I mean, we're on the same floor, but even before that happened, I was over in another building and I had an incident with my room situation. So then I had to move and I called her and she was the first one that came running to help and, told me, come on over here, we'll like be together. And so that was just to me, I was like, man, having somebody who's like a sister to me and the same thing that we both like, we share a lot of the same likes, and we also have a lot of differences that we can kind of learn from each other of like, okay, Avery's a nursing major and I'm a special education major, like those two don't really mix, but we've kind of learned how to help each other grow in academics and being away from home, and just having somebody to call family has really been nice.
Yeah, I think it's probably fitting that there's a nursing major and a special education major as goalies. I feel you're learning skill sets that can probably help you guys out with that.
Yes.
What I really love about you guys is it's a very healthy, competitive environment where you're both like really super excited for the accomplishments you each have, and you're both there as a kind of a shoulder to cry on when things aren't going so well. Um, yeah, I think that's kind of role model for a lot of other positions and just maybe life in general.
Another thing too that I didn't really mention before was with Avery and like the whole game aspect of things too. I know there's some games when I look at Coach Mercer and I'm like, she's doing amazing. Like if you were to put me in, I mean, I'll try to be her, but I can't. That's not who I am. And so her like Avery just making the saves that she makes, it just I'm like, wow, like it really takes me back, and I'm like, I really want to do that someday, or be like her. And so just to like work towards that. And same thing when I go on the field for Avery in the middle of a game, she's always like, high five, like good job. There's not a time when we switch in for each other, like even in practices, that we don't share some sort of like words of affirmation, like great job, good work. And then we always leave with a high five. And to me, like that's huge, just to know that I can return that favor in such an easy way as just a little high five. Even if we don't say anything, the high five still means a lot. And so that part too is that's where we kind of come together in the competitive stance. And so tonight and tomorrow playing in the game, I said I hope I play against her, but it'd also be really awesome if I got her on the same team. But no, just to kind of see, because like I said, we are always competing together, and so to kind of have that little bit of switch where now we're going against each other, and we're both super competitive, and so we always want the best for each other, but there again too, it'll be nice to go against.
Yeah, that'll be fun to watch. I'm hoping I can get out and witness the carnage. Um, I think the other great thing, don't you shouldn't undersell yourself in your own abilities. People always ask, wow, you got two goalies, which one's better, which one's that? I'm like, you know what? If I could combine the both of them, we'd have a perfect goalie. So I think it's always that where maybe you need some help, she picks you up, and where maybe she needs some help, you pick her up. So it's just a really cool dynamic. So well done.
Thank you.
So let's go back way back in your history to high school.
Oh gosh.
Oh geez, what was that? 7 months ago?
I was gonna say 7 years ago, it feels like. No, I'm just
Um, so Camden, New York, Camden High School Blue Devils, if I recall,
Yep.
went from a Blue Devil to a Red Hawk. Um, So tell us, a little bit, what did field hockey for you start at the high school level? Did it start before that? How'd you end up being a senior playing field hockey and looking forward into Roberts?
So my story is a little bit crazy, if I'm being quite honest. I started back in middle school. I was in seventh grade and I started as a defender. And I remember there was one practice where my coach was like, "Now who wants to be a goalie?" And I didn't raise my hand because I was like, "Man, that looks scary." Like at first, I really was like, "No, no, thank you. I'll stay right where I am." And then there was a practice where she's like, "Okay, we need a goalie, like somebody." And so I raised my hand, I put the equipment on, and it thundered. And I never got a shot on me. So I never really got that experience. So I remember saying to my parents, like, "Mom and Dad, I really think that this is something like I enjoyed it while I was in it. This is something that I want to do." So then we have this all-American field hockey camp that's held every couple years at our high school. And it's where these two college athletes from Division 1, Division 2, all different levels of collegiate play, they come back and they'll work with our field players. And that year I heard that there was going to be a goalie from Colgate, and I said to my parents, I was like, "Mom and Dad, I really want to do this." So they signed me up and I was playing. I had no idea at the time who the varsity head coach was. I didn't know her. I only very rarely heard of field hockey at that next level because I was in seventh grade year heading into eighth grade, and I didn't really know what my future held for me at the time. And so I remember playing at this clinic, and it was a Wednesday night. It's like really still fresh in my brain because it's so amazing. And I remember I came home that night after the clinic, and my mom said to me, she said, "Abby," she goes, "You're going tonight to play at the varsity level with this team if you really want to." The varsity coach reached out to me and asked if you could, and I told her yes. And so my mom was super excited for me, and my parents have always been very supportive of everything that I've wanted to do, all of my siblings for that matter. And so that was a big step. I was like, man, like I'm going to play with the best of like I thought these girls were I looked up to them. And so I went and I played. And then later that night, the JV coach came to me and she said, "I don't have a goalie. Would you mind playing?" And I said, "Absolutely." So I went out and I played for her. And then the varsity coach said to me, she said, "You're not going back down on modified. I want you to test up this year to play JV." And from then it was history. And I was up with her for, gosh, 4 or 5 years. And then here I am on to like my seventh year of field hockey, six as a goalie, and loving every minute of it. And I am really glad that I decided to continue my field hockey career in college because I was contemplating it and I wasn't going to play until Coach Marissa reached out. And then I was like, you know what? This is it. This is now or never. And so I just really made that decision. And I think it was a awesome decision. I can't wait for seasons to come.
Yeah, for sure. That is kind of a crazy story. And yes, we're very grateful for Coach Marissa to bring you on because or else we wouldn't have all your happiness and love you're spreading.
Well, thank you.
Um, how was your mindset that first day when you knew you were going on the varsity, you were all excited. Yes, I'm playing with all these people I look up to, and you put the equipment on, you walk out onto the field and you open your eyes and you're like, how was that moment?
It was a little terrifying at first, especially because it was the first time that I really had put the gear on and was playing in it. And so I really made a really dumb decision. And I went out onto the field without my chest protector on for the whole first half of the game. And I got back, I'm like, man, something doesn't feel right. And I looked down, I'm like, oh no, this is what's wrong. I don't have my chest protector on. So that part was a little bit, I was like, what was I thinking? But no, playing with that next level, it really opened my eyes because sitting there in eighth grade, not knowing what my future held for me, I had no idea that the coach was going to tell me that I was playing up for her, like coming up to JV, then to play for her eventually. I played my heart out. I really did because I felt it deep down. I think knowing like this is a once in a lifetime opportunity because I didn't have any idea it was coming up. So to play with these girls who are now at U of R, and one did go to St. John Fisher, no longer playing, but like they traveled to far places to play and just were continuously loving the sport. It really made me be like, wow, like I need to continue this. So it was scary
Awesome.
at first. I was terrified, but
Yeah, I bet it's because you're like, wow, they're bigger and stronger and faster and yikes.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
then and they're shooting at me.
Yes. Yep. And I was playing schools that actually Avery played. They were not in our division, and so that was the part of like summer league that we played at those games at varsity level, and just schools that Avery demolished because their team was outstanding. So she's another one that came from really great program. So
Yeah, so as a Blue Devil, did you try any other sports? Were you a multi-sport athlete in high school?
yes, I was a 3 season sport athlete. I played field hockey. I did basketball, all modified all the way up through. And then I did softball for a little while, and then I switched to do track and field and made it semi far. I was a thrower. I made it to almost made it to sectionals both years, but joined late. But it was a lot of fun. I love the experience, and then you mix COVID in the middle of all of that too with my spring season, so got a little monkeyed up, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's crazy. You threw me off for a second on the track because a lot of goalies become goalies because they want to run less. So I was kind of like, hold it. She's doing track and it wasn't
No,
computing with me.
not
So
running, not running. I was a thrower.
yeah, what actually it's funny. One of my daughters was also a thrower. She did the whatever you call the ball thing and the
Oh, yep.
yeah,
Shot
that
put.
was yeah,
That's what
shot
I
put.
did.
So that's kind of cool. What do you think some of the basketball, some of the softball things that you learned from those sports was there anything you could kind of take away from those and put into your field hockey game, either physically or mentally?
So basketball, definitely mentally because I never really played. And so I sat the bench a lot and watched my teammates play and succeed and never really was given the opportunity to be good at the sport. Whereas like field hockey, and I mean even softball, I stopped playing let's see, it was 10th grade year. I said no more. This isn't really my thing. I played little league all the way up through I couldn't play little league anymore, and I was just like, you know what? It's not my thing, not for me. So then I found something different. But even in like in basketball, like I said, the mental part of it, not playing, I really couldn't get down on myself. Granted, there were some games where I'm like, man, like I just want to be out on the field. I love to help others, and so like being out there to help a win or help something happen, like that really hurt me. And so I had to stay like mentally strong and not get down on myself and not give up and not play. And so even with as little of time I got on the court, I still came back every year and I still contributed what I could give to the team at the times that I could. I gave my little attributes to the team. And then I mean softball, I learned a lot of hand-eye coordination, and actually the same thing too, that can transfer over to like field hockey. And also when I transferred to track, it was a big difference for me because there were people that have already been throwing for 4 or 5 years, and then I just came to the team not knowing what I was doing. And so again, mentally strong to not give up and not be like, oh man, that throw was terrible. Like it was all a very big mental part of it that led into field hockey. And I wish that I had something to go off of mentally, because there were some times when I just was like really bad at trying to like channel my mentality. And so now as a collegiate athlete, the outlook on things is very different. So
Yeah, I think us as coaches, we like to say a lot that mindset mentality is 90% or whatever number they throw out, but we're not always very good at spending 90% of time on that, which so it falls in our laps as athletes to try to figure that out. And I don't know that we always have the skill necessary especially at a younger age of how to figure that stuff out.
yeah, it was a challenge for sure. um I know going in, like my coaches, they were always uplifting, so I never really had an issue with that before. um but again, it's like it's not the same, as college. It's very, and then you're on your own too. You add the whole part of not having, your family to kind of like go home and, I wouldn't say rant, talk to about, whatever you were feeling. I mean, you can call them up on the phone, but it's not the same to me. I like to be in person, and I'm that person that, yeah, no, I won't send you a text message. I'll call you face to face, or I'll, call you over the phone. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I work things through. And so having that gone and having to do it over the phone and not having be able to do it over face to face, it's kind of been a change for me. And also, my parents never missed a game. It didn't matter, I have a younger sister who's 2 years younger than me, and so she was in the same sports. She played field hockey, she played basketball, she did track. So it was like hard for them to be at a game, but they never missed a game. And so then coming to college, that was another thing mentally that I had to be like, it's okay to not have that. It's okay to not have your parents at a game. Like it's okay to compete without them being right there. And they made it to every home game that they could, and every away game that they could, and they live streamed every game. But again, it's like it's that thing that's missing, and it's missing, but that doesn't mean that can change your mentality or even the way you play the game. So that was a big mental difference, I think, personally, coming into playing collegiate sports.
Yeah, I think it's hard enough coming in as a freshman to kind of adapt to your new environment, right? It's you're maybe away from home for the first time. You're all of a sudden kind of in charge of your own schedule and doing things. And it can be a difficult adjustment in time management and just kind of missing that daily interaction, like you said. And then you throw in the athlete part. And I think it's kind of a mixed blessing. On one hand, you come in, you already have kind of a friend group that you have a support group. But then you mentioned it that if you're used to people at your home games and stuff like that, all of a sudden there's kind of a little vacancy in there. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the student athlete has a tougher time as a freshman or an easier time.
I'm not so sure either. I mean, that was one thing that was very helpful coming into college is I already had teammates who, granted, we were a first year program, and that's a whole nother thing in itself. But like coming in and knowing that most of these girls had already been through what I was going through was very helpful because they knew what to say. They knew that, it's okay to cry when your parents leave you the first time. There's no judgment. Like you took all the time you needed to be comfortable being where you were. And if you needed anything, you reached out. Like that was kind of how it felt for me coming into it. And I remember looking at Avery and saying, these girls, they just act like everything's fine. Like none of them are crying, none of them are upset. I'm like, what the heck? Like I am sobbing because my parents left. And Avery too, she hit it very well. And I'm like, I'm just an emotional person, I think. I really am. But then again, having Avery to talk to and just even after field hockey practice was all done, it was like I was never sick of Avery. Like I can never get enough of her company. And so that to me, like that again is another thing of like family. We're gonna have our arguments, we're gonna have our times, but I feel like with Avery, I've made this connection that we're gonna come back to each other. And so I can really see as like a lifelong friend. And that's important for anybody coming into college. And I don't know if the student athlete part of it is harder or easier. I can't answer that because I struggled, but I also was like, okay, this is a breeze. This is a walk in the park. I had those days, but then there was also those days where I'm like, everything is just falling apart. Like nothing is going right for me. But then I take a look and I'm like, I'm not the only one in the situation. So I don't know. I can't answer that fully. I can just kind of give you a little bit of insight on both sides.
Yeah, I don't know if there is an answer. I think you hit upon a couple of things to me, which are important aspects of the student athlete experience, though, is getting those lifelong friends that are teammates and making sure we're focused on that aspect of the experience and not necessarily, just on field performance strictly. And some of the leadership skills. I mean, you're a freshman and you show some really good leadership skills. So I think those two boxes at least are getting checked for you.
I'm hoping so.
You
Um,
said Yeah, you said something else interesting that I'm a huge supporter fan of multi-sport athletes. And being a three-season athlete, how do you feel like going through basketball and going through softball and going through your track experience and kind of saying, I don't know, maybe not for me. How do you think that it helped you instill that love of field hockey in you when you finally found something that clicked?
Um, Personally, I think that I just knew deep down I had the love for field hockey more than I did anything else. And so I was always saying to myself, even if I didn't like to play basketball and I didn't like to do track, or if I didn't like to do softball, it was helping to better me for the fall season. Everything that I did was for the fall season. It was for field hockey. It was never for basketball or for softball or for track. It was always for field hockey. And I remember some of my friends saying, take a season off. If you're really getting stressed, like take a season off. And I'd look at them and I'd say, why? Why take a season off? To be bored and do nothing? No, I want to do something. I want to be active. I want to be physically getting something. And so right now we have 14 days off, and I'm going to the gym because I can't sit still. I don't know what to do. Like, I mean, it's just like that part of it too, I guess. But again, everything was for the fall season. It was never just for basketball or track. I always had to be doing something. And I was into like the musicals. I did the musical my senior year and stuff, and balancing that plus school plus sports, I think really helped me for coming into college, because musical is kind of like friends. You have that time where you want to be with your friends, but you also know you got to do homework and you got to go to field hockey practice, like that part of it. So that was very helpful in that part of not being stressed about that. But back to your thing about, all that leads up to the fall season.
So I'm just going to remind you, because you're like missing practice and stuff, that in 30 minutes you have powder puff practice.
Yeah, 30 minutes, I'll be seeing the team again.
30 minutes you'll be seeing the team again. So it's funny you mentioned the musical and stuff. So you're see this March of this year, actually, you were Crystal from the
I
Little Shop of
was.
Horrors, if I did my research properly.
You did.
And so I think it's funny because if I remember, Crystal is it's like there's three characters that kind of guide the narrative throughout Little Shop of Horrors, if I'm recalling it properly. And they're the only three that actually know everything that's going on.
Yes.
And I when I was thinking about that, I'm like, well, that's kind of funny because now you're a goalie and you're in the back and you can see everything that's going on. Um, you know, talk to me about how you think about that statement. Where do you see some correlations in the two?
So definitely, like you said, standing in the back of the field, it's almost like I can envision things happening before they happen. So if I'm on the field and I see that there's a girl open, I'm like, they're gonna pass it to her. There's no way they're not. She's wide open. And my statement will be wrong. And I'm like, oh, I lied. That's not right. That's not what happened. But most of the time I can see, okay, what's going on and kind of unfold it before it happens. And so with Little Shop of Horrors, I didn't do the musical last year, and I was in the musicals before. And then this year when I found out it was, and I was like, you know what? It's senior year. I'm never going to get to do this again with these people. And there was only two seniors. So I said, you know what? I'm going to try out. And I got this part. And I remember when I got it, I looked at my mom and I'm like, who is this? Like, what does this girl do? Like, I had no idea. And so then I called my sister, who's big into this stuff, and she's like, "Oh, that's one of the doo-wop girls. She tells the story, and everything." I remember being so excited because I love to talk, and so I was like, "Yes, I finally get something where I can, I can talk and I can tell people things and just have fun." And that too leads into field hockey because I get to kind of boss the girls around a little bit back there where I'm like, mark this girl or go to that ball, and not like bossing, but helping. I like to call it that helping, those little
Directive.
moments. Yes, directive. And so that's the part of it that, those two can kind of correlate. And also, I mean, I'm not really quiet in the cage. I'm sure if you've seen games, you can tell, even on the sidelines. So there again, I get to use my talkativeness and my directiveness onto the field to help others.
I'm not sure you're doo-wopping at them, but I understand a little more. Your love for fine theater is why you enjoy my goal dance so much.
I am gonna miss your goal dance. I think we need to get that on a video, Nosy.
I think that's probably going to frighten a lot of people.
That's all right.
So before we leave Camden, New York, if I was to visit Camden, New York, which I'm not really sure where it is even, near Syracuse?
Yeah, it's 45 minutes northeast of Syracuse.
Oh, Northeast. Okay. So if I was to stumble across Camden, New York in my travels, where would I stop for something to eat?
Oh, my favorite place to eat in Camden is Avicoli's. It's an Italian restaurant and they have really good meatballs and like spaghetti meatballs, and they have some pretty good pizza. I That's our big preference, to get pizza if we are like, oh, let's have pizza one night for dinner. There's not much to do in Camden. The village is very tiny, and so that's one of my go-to places. Don't ask me how I lived there for 18 years and only have one favorite place to eat, but that's that's what it is.
So I'm Canadian and Irish and German. There's no Italian in me at all, but most of the Italian friends I know, the first question they'd ask is like, well, how's the sauce?
It's good. I don't know. I wouldn't know the difference. Yeah, I'm with you. I
Meatballs are awesome, but how's the sauce? Um, so you're a senior field hockey. Um, how did the recruiting process happen? Was it kind of out of the blue, a surprise? I think you alluded to it earlier where you thought maybe you were done playing field hockey and then in swoops Coach Marissa to save the day and swoop you up. How was that experience from like kind of a emotional roller coaster standpoint?
Um, it was a lot of arguing between my parents and I, because I was set in stone that my last game of field hockey was my last game of field hockey. And I remember crying and saying, I'm not ready for this to be over, but I didn't have any idea what I was going to do. I had no intentions in playing in college just because I didn't personally think that I was going to be able to handle the workload and college sports all at the same time. And so I was really down on myself. And, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm done and over. Like, it's done and over with. And I remember like sitting down and having multiple conversations with Renee Morrison, and she's the Holland Penn field hockey coach. And they were our rivals. And so they still are, actually, to this day. But I remember talking to her, and she just said, Abby, I really think that you will enjoy this. I really think you need to go and play. Here are some schools, and she listed off a bunch of the SUNY schools that had a field hockey team, and she said, I can give your number to them. All this stuff. If you really want, I'll help you with that process. And my high school coach, she's like, I'm not really going to get involved because I know you don't want to play. I want you to be able to make this decision for yourself, because if other people are making it for you and then you get in, you hate it. She's like, I want it to be from you. You have to make this next step.
Right.
And I thanked her for that. But I'm like, why didn't you just send my information out? Because it would have made life a lot easier. But I'm glad that she didn't, because then I got the opportunity to talk to Renee, and, somebody who sends a lot of her girls off to play collegiate sports. Camden, we don't really have that. There aren't many of us that go on to play, I mean, at really any collegiate sport. So having her to just kind of be like, I think this is for you. I really think you'll enjoy it. And then it came down to decision day. And it was before decision day, I think like 2 weeks before decision day. I remember my mom telling me that Renee had given my information, because I told her she could go ahead and do it, to Coach Marissa. And I remember contemplating, is this really what I want to do? Is this really what I want for the rest of my life, or for the next 4 years?
For
Not
the
the
rest of
rest of
your
my
life,
life.
4 years,
Next 4 years. Um, and I remember sitting down in my room, and now I'm a little bit defiant sometimes. I don't like to tell other people that they're right. I am right. I don't like to be wrong. So I remember sitting down at my computer, and I typed up Roberts Wesleyan, and I had searched where the place was. I had searched, things around here. And then I went to the application page, and it said free application up until midnight tonight. So I'm like, you know what? This has got to be it. This has got to be for me. Like, it wouldn't tell me until midnight if this wasn't for me. So I applied, and within 2 days I got accepted. And then not even a day later, Coach Marissa was contacting me, telling me to come on visits and stuff. So that was super stressful, because I was like determined I wasn't going to play. And then I applied, got accepted, and my dream was crushed. My dream of going to Brockport was crushed. That's where I wanted to go. I was like, I'm going to go to Brockport, I'm going to study, and that's it. And I'm really glad that I ended up here instead of Brockport because,
Me too.
I like to, I'm playing field hockey here. And being part of a first year program is something that Renee really hit on. She was telling me, you're part of a first year team. You're a freshman. You're all going to be in this together. It's a good year to experience it. She said, I challenge you to go in and practice for the first week of practices and give me a call. And I said, okay. So I did it. It was like a challenge, but at the same time, when I was coming in here, I was like, okay, you know what, Mom and Dad, I'm really enjoying this. I love it. I'm having so much fun. And I called Renee and I said, you know what, Renee, I'm so thankful that you told me to go down this path because it was the right one for me. I think I've really made the right decision. And I said, thank you for pushing me to do this and having fun. And she goes, so are you going to stick it out the next week? I said, I think I'm sticking it out the rest of the season. And so that was something huge. And again, I just think her and Coach Marissa for really helping me to kind of navigate that, and my parents, because without them, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So that's big.
I love the point about being a freshman and coming into team one, year one, because it's really true. You come into a new experience as a college student, and you're also kickstarting something brand new in the field hockey program at not only at Roberts, but locally there. I feel just having that D2 presence, that school there just helps out with the local youth programs. So that's kind of cool. So team one, you knew you were stepping into it. What kind of challenges did you encounter, did the team encounter having this first year? And how did you kind of overcome some of the, oh well, you're not going to win a lot of games, that there's a lot of people like to win, so it's kind of stressful sometimes.
It was definitely very stressful. I from the field player standpoint of it, because I talked to a lot of the girls and we all kind of came together and you could just see kind of the frustration sometimes when things weren't going our way. And so just to I always took a step back and said, this is our first year. We're building the foundation. And so we have to be kind of patient with one another and understand that mistakes are going to be made, games are going to be lost, things are going to happen, but we're all in it as a one unit. And something that I really liked coming into the season is coach really stressing that idea of being one team, that it's bigger than you. It's not just you. There's, other things out there that are bigger than you. And it doesn't really just necessarily apply to field hockey. It applies to the working world, that it's not just me. I'm not going to be the only special education teacher. I'm not going to be the greatest, but I'll be the best that I can be in that position that I'm in. And so really kind of playing field hockey and having that as team one, I was super excited. I was like, man, this is going to be so much fun. That was what I looked at it. And so the team, I know there was a lot of stress, but I think all in all, when we look back now that, we're kind of off, to kind of have that time to take in what happened during the season, I think I can speak on behalf of the team when I say this, that we were having fun. There wasn't a time when we didn't share laughs together, whether it was on the field, off the field. There wasn't a time when I couldn't look to my left and look to my right and notice that I had a family around me. I think we all understood that. And we all also understood that what happened this past season, it was going to happen. It happened. We were going to lose games. Things were going to go wrong. Whistles were going to be blown for the wrong reasons. And just to be able to look back now and say, we did it, we started that program, we were a part of something bigger than us, is going to be something that I will tell for many years of my life after college, because that was huge to come into something that back in high school, it was like, oh, all these girls were playing for themselves. Most of the time they hated the game. They didn't want to be there. They were there for the wrong reasons. And stepping onto a field with girls who cared about the sport, cared about each other, were willing to lift each other up rather than put each other down was huge for me. because I came from something that it was not bigger than me. It was me and only me, and look at me. And so that was nice to come into a first year team. That took a stress off of me. And I was in it to have fun and learn and make mistakes so that I can learn from them and learn from my fellow teammates.
Well, drop the mic on that one, dude. I- just listening to you articulate that, and that's where the team is. One, it makes me super proud of you guys for working so hard on that foundation and the kind of those non on field performance aspects, because that's, as you become a sophomore and a junior and a senior, those things are going to be huge and just make that even better. And props to coach for setting that environment where you guys can kind of explore through there and figure it out.
Yeah, I definitely, like I said, enjoyed every minute of it, and I can't wait for seasons to come. But like, we have Maddie, who's a senior, who won't be with us next year, and so we have to fill her shoes. And it just makes me like, she was a part of that foundation, and she gets to say that she did that her last year, and I get to say that I was a part of her foundation her last year, my first year. And just thinking about how this season there's going to be girls that come and go and come and go. And I mean, look, I'm not even, graduated. I'm only a freshman. But just to think that when I do look back, I can say and watch these girls play in the future, that I can say that I started that. I stood for that. I was with that. I, was a part of that. Is something that makes me just like glow. It makes me so excited. And again, just the whole team aspect of it, I'm really hoping that we can continue to build with all these new recruits coming in, and us. I hope that our team from last year, we can just continue to show these recruits that, what, come with us, come under our wings. We're going to show you this is how we do Roberts field hockey. Like, this is what we want, and this is how we started things together. So
Well, let me tell you, you might be only a freshman, but you're one of the wisest freshmen I've talked to in a while. Hey, everyone, the future of Roberts field hockey is in good hands when you hear this from freshmen. Um, last thing, because 17 minutes to a powder puff practice, dude. Okay, so in fast forward, well, not quite, not 4 years, maybe 3.5, when you're all graduating and about to head off to your adult world. And the last thing coach says to you is, Abby, I want you to write a letter to your number for the next person who gets it to read, of what your 4-year experience, team 1 through team 4, what was that experience like to you? And what are you going to pass on to whoever takes that number next?
definitely pass on my positivity. Let them, whoever wears number 77 next, know that this jersey was worn through blood, sweat, tears, everything that I hope to give to this program. And just to know that even though times might get tough, it's not over. You have so much more that you can give, and keep smiling, because even if your teammate looks down, you smile at them, it means a lot inside. And that's why I do what I do on the sidelines, always cheering for my team, no matter what the case may be. We could be losing 21-0, and I would not stop cheering, because that doesn't matter to me. The scoreboard means nothing to me. Is like your heart, your passion, what you have for the team, and what you have to give. I mean, to me, that's a win in itself. If you can smile, you can go through every practice. It might be terrible, and running 200s is not fun. But when you look at coach, or you look at your teammates, you're all in it together. I mean, coach is there coaching you to be better because she wants to have a winning program, and you're there because you want to be part of that. And so, like, also to kind of look back, I know this isn't something that I would tell. I mean, maybe it is something that I would tell whoever wears my jersey next, is being a part of team 1. We didn't win a ton of games, but to me that doesn't matter, because we had a lot of wins together. There was a lot of things that we did together that was a win in my eyes, and even in coach's eyes. And I know coach and I have had this conversation too. Like, I don't even know really what to say, because that is to me just amazing. And to know that the little things are the big things. Exactly what coach says. Like she stresses it every day. Little things become the big things. That little smile can mean so much to one of your teammates. They could be having a terrible game. You smile at them, let them know that they're not alone. They're, it's okay. Things will get better in that game. That's all I can ask for.
Yes. Maybe in 4 years or maybe sooner, Deny goalkeeping will come knocking and want to absorb your wonderful self into my umbrella there so you can impart this wisdom to everybody.
That would be
Um,
amazing.
yeah, well, yeah, we could hope.
Yeah. No, yeah. We can definitely dream. We'll dream together, Nosy.
Do it together. Abby, thank you. This was awesome. This was awesome chat with you. I knew it would be. You're amazing. I can't wait until we're back on the field laughing and having you experience my hold it. I'd like you to experience my goalie dance because it's so marvelous. But on the other hand, that means I got one by you. So I've got mixed emotions on there.
I'd like to see it if you score an Avery.
Oh, there you go. I gotta
Not on
keep
me.
I gotta keep working on my shot then.
Yeah. That's a challenge.
Definitely. Abby, thank you again. Much appreciate your time. Go have fun at Powder Puff. Hopefully I can get out and see you guys.
I will. Tomorrow night at 9.
All right. With that, talk to you later.
Talk to you later.